My child, I have a secret about your unique power. It's something everyone else sees, but you've missed. This isn't about praise. It's a direct explanation of what makes you stand out. Don't skip this, because understanding it will change everything for you. Dear child, I need to talk to you about something that everyone has seen for a longer time than you think. Not something you prepared or performed in front of people, but something that just comes from the way you were made. Now, before you think what I'm about to say is just religious jargon or flattery, meant to make you feel better for a short time, please bear with me. What I need to say is not flattery. It is an explanation. I'm going to tell you what I see when I look at the way your mind works, the courage that makes you make decisions, and the intelligence that has been drawing attention to you in rooms where you have already left. People are talking about you, but not in a scary way. Instead, they mean that something happened to them when they were with you that they can't fully explain, can't easily dismiss, and can't stop thinking about. I want you to know where that quality comes from. It didn't come from luck, ease, privilege, or any of the other things that people usually think of when they think of great minds. I made it, it came from me. I put it inside you on purpose before you came into the world. Because you have been living with this trait without fully understanding what it is. I am telling you this today. You felt it and seen how it changed the people around you, but you haven't always known what to call it or where it came from. Today, type that changes. It's clear in the comments. First, let me talk about how your mind works when you're alone in a room. I didn't mean for your brilliance to be the loudest thing in any room you walk into. It was meant to be the most structured one. When you walk into a room, something changes. It doesn't change dramatically or in a way that stands out, but the atmosphere changes in a way that people feel before they can say it. The slouched people now sit up straighter. People who were using loose language start to be more careful about what they say. The conversation was going in one direction, but now it's going in a different direction because of something you brought to the table that wasn't there before. You haven't said anything yet. You didn't correct anyone or say something better. You just showed up. And the room got used to having someone there whose mind has a kind of internal order that changes the way things are around them in a subtle way. You didn't learn this. It's not a social skill you learned. Because of how I built your mind, this is what will happen. The way I designed, it wasn't to match the architecture of a space. Instead, I wanted to make a new one. There are more minds in the room. Yours quietly changes it, and the people who felt that change feel clearer, more grounded, and more capable after talking to you than they did before you came, even if they were only with you for a short time. They don't always say why they came back, but they did. They want to be with you again because they know that being around your thoughts makes their own better in some way. I call your natural way of processing deliberate design. I made your mind so that it changes the structure of everything it touches. And that change doesn't end when you leave the room. It stays with people in their minds long after the conversation is over. In the comments, type I was made for this. Everything I have covered across this channel is now in one place. The prayers, the teachings, the daily blessings, it is all inside the Daily Miracle Manual. Link in the description. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission grows into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. But more than your support, we want your presence. When you head to our community through the link in the description or the pinned comment, you aren't just visiting a site. You are entering a community of like-minded believers. This is a sanctuary where you can post your prayer requests, lift up the burdens of others, and engage in daily discussions with a family that speaks the language of faith. Whether you are joining one of our membership tiers for deeper study, sowing a seed of faith, or simply joining our daily morning prayers, you are helping us build a global altar of worship. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through a community that stands together. Each gift you give acts as living water for those in our community seeking healing and hope. Give, and it will be given to you, is the promise that sustains our shared mission. I invite you now to step out of the shadows and into this circle of prayer. Come with purpose, join the conversation, and plant your seed in fertile ground. Let's open the heavens together. Release your seed today, join our community, and see what God brings back into your life. My child, I need to talk about this one more time, because I want you to fully understand one more thing about how you change the rooms you enter. The people who have been being flexible around you without knowing why aren't reacting to something you did. They are responding to how they felt, which was the difference between being close to someone who is truly rooted and being close to someone who is just showing off. Most people in most rooms are taking care of how they look. They are building a version of themselves in real time that they think the room will feel good about. Of course, since everyone is doing this at the same time, the room is filled with the quiet hum of people trying to impress each other. The hum of mutual performance is interrupted when you walk into that space and just act on what you think, what you know, and what you believe, without checking it against what the room wants to hear. Even though it doesn't go away right away, it gets harder to keep up when someone in the room isn't performing, which limits the options for everyone else. A room full of performers can easily keep up the performance as long as everyone is involved, but add someone who is just being, and the performance becomes clear to everyone. People feel exposed in a way they can't fully explain. One of two things happen next. It costs them too much to do anything else, so they either step into something more real or go further into the performance. Any way you look at it, just being there, the version of yourself that doesn't need permission to exist in the room, changed something. Because people who look at you from the outside often get the wrong idea about the kind of courage that guides your decisions. My beloved, I want to talk about it now. People think your courage looks like boldness, like someone who made a big choice in public and took the harder path in front of everyone. But your courage has rarely looked like that. The tone has been calmer, the events have been longer, and there have been more demands than anything that happens in a single public moment. When everyone around you told you it was time to stop evolving, your courage looked like the choice to keep growing even though the people closest to you had reached a plateau and were starting to see your continued growth as a threat to the balance they valued. It meant growing beyond the versions of yourself that other people were comfortable with. And you could have stayed inside those versions forever if comfort had been your main goal. You didn't stay. You kept changing. Some part of you couldn't settle for the person you were already when there was more to become. It wasn't because you had an audience or someone was waiting to applaud the next version of you. When they get to that point, most people choose what they know. They pick the version of themselves that is easy for the people around them to connect with. They pick the job, the relationship, the identity, and the expectations that don't need the people around them to change. You pick growth instead. In the short term, growth always costs more than other options. It costs ease. It costs the ability for people who knew you before to understand you better. It costs a lot to feel like you belong in places that were made for you before. You paid those fees even though you didn't know what they would buy. You were born with that kind of courage. Not the courage to stand in front of witnesses. The bravery that keeps going even when they're not there. I also want you to know something else about how the people around you have been reacting to this trait you have, my child. Not the ones who tell everyone they admire you. The ones who don't say anything while they watch you. They are the ones who have carefully placed themselves away. Close enough to watch, but far enough away that you don't have to answer to someone who lives the same way you do. Those people have been going through a certain thing while you've been around. On top of that, you've been holding up a mirror for this. The mirror also shows them the version of themselves they stopped believing in, the potential they quietly gave up, and the clarity they didn't go after because it would have required them to change in ways that scared them. They can see how far they have come and how far they could have gone if they had made different decisions when they saw you grow. They can tell the difference between honesty and the compromises they accepted when they see you make a choice based on what is right instead of what is easy. They feel the weight of their own unfinished becoming when they watch you become. The complete guide, every daily prayer, every spiritual tool, everything I've put together to help you grow your faith is down in the description. It's called the Daily Miracle Manual. Now, stay right here with me because as this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself. Jesus says, this is not history, it is a living promise about your future. come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. You don't mean for them to feel this way. It's just you living, but the living is the mirror, and not everyone is ready to see what it shows. Some of them will quietly move away rather than face what you bring out in them. Some people will feel something wake up in them that they thought was asleep for good. That awakening is one of the specific things I made you to do for other people, not as a show, but as a natural result of living with your eyes wide open in a world where most people have chosen to only see partially. You can teach me how to type in the comments, my child. People use the word mirror in a lot of different ways. So I want to be clear about what I mean when I say, hold up a mirror. I want you to fully understand what happens when you are near someone who is living below what I designed them for. People don't just feel inspired when they see you. As they look at the distance between where they are now and where they wanted to be, when they were young enough to fully believe in what they wanted, it makes them upset. Most adults can carry this far without making a sound. Most of the time, the distance is not felt as distance because they have built enough structure around it, kept themselves busy and justified, and made friends with other people who carry it as well. It seems normal, like this is how things turned out in life. This is where ambition and reality meet, and that meeting is called maturity. They then meet you, and the compromise stops feeling mature all of a sudden. It seems like a choice. They are making a clear, reversible, ongoing choice every day that they call necessary. Your presence doesn't take away their choice. It just makes them more aware of it. And that awareness, however short, gives them something new that they didn't have before you came. A chance to be honest about their own lives. Some of them will make use of that time. From the time they spent with you, they will take it with them and let it start a new choice. Others will spend a lot of time arguing that the moment wasn't true, that your situation is different from theirs, and that the comparison doesn't work. But the fact that they are arguing is proof that the moment happened. You messed with something inside them. Part of the reason I put you where I did was to cause that trouble. There will be some lives that don't change because of you, but none of them will stay the same. My child, I want to talk to you now about how your mind deals with limits. This is one of the clearest signs of how I made you different. Most people get their ideas about what is possible from the place where they grew up. When they are young, their family, culture, and community make unspoken agreements about what is possible, what is right, and what is realistic. As adults, they hold on to these agreements and use them as facts instead of guidelines. The reason they don't question the box is that they can't see it. They have never stood outside the walls long enough to know that it is possible to do so. So they can't see the walls. Your thoughts are different. The unspoken agreements about limits were not passed down to you. Or if they were, you eventually looked them in the light and saw that they were made of much weaker materials than anyone else was willing to admit. Some of the questions you started to ask were not being asked by the people around you. It's not that you wanted to cause trouble, You were just looking for the truth. And the search for the truth doesn't end when you find something that most people believe. You kept looking. Past the place where most people turned around and went back. More than the point where the questions started to bother them. After you reached conclusions that were different from what you were taught to believe. You didn't find chaos on the other side of those questions. It was clear. The kind of clarity that can only be had by a mind that is ready to look into things that everyone else agreed not to look into. You were free to make any changes to the design I gave you. I put curiosity there. I made a promise to understand that is stronger than a promise to be comfortable. And that mix makes a mind that doesn't understand the box the same way everyone else does. It's not because you want to rebel, you're just trying to understand. And real understanding doesn't end at made-up lines. So, this is a seed for someone who is just now starting to realize that the limits they were born with were not as permanent as they were told. For someone whose mind is starting to wonder about things they were never told to think about. Click on the link below or scan the QR code on your screen. It takes a word to reach someone who is on the verge of awakening for every seed that is planted. Now, my child, I want to talk about where your courage comes from. Because there is a kind of courage that is built in comfort, that is done from a place of safety. Because the person expressing it thinks the risk is small enough to handle. And because people are watching. You do have that kind of courage, but it's not something I gave you. I used a different kind of fire to shape what I put into you. The fire of necessity, the fire of seasons when there was no one to watch, no safety net, and no promise that the choice you made in the dark would lead to anything in the light. You didn't get your courage from being in the spotlight. It was carved during times no one could see. There were choices that had to be made when the cost was real and the outcome was not clear. At times it would have been easier to stay, and times it would have been clear to leave. What you did was hard not because it seemed brave, but because it was the only thing that fit with who you knew you were supposed to be. That kind of bravery has its own weight that can't be copied. The brave actions can be done by other people. They can say something brave, take a public risk, or go for the dramatic option. But they can't copy what you carry on the inside. What you carry has a history, a record of how long you've been strong. There were really long and really hard nights. Choices that cost you real things, and losses that weren't small. There were times when you had to figure out if what you thought about yourself was true, or if it was just a story you were telling yourself that real life would eventually show to be false. It wasn't made up. The pressure did not change who you were. Instead, it strengthened what you thought you were. That's not luck. That is the exact design I put in you before any of those things happened. I knew what was going to happen. What had to be built was done. And the you that came out of what was going to happen is the you that makes people feel heavy when they are near you. They can't name it. They think you've been somewhere and that you came back from every place you went. In the comments, type, I move from the inside. Do you feel calmer as I say these words? If you feel a warm feeling in your chest, that isn't really emotion, but more like recognition. That's your spirit confirming something it already knew, but hadn't heard this clearly put into words before. Don't change that. Do not rush by it. Setting things at ease is not sentiment. You already know in your heart that what I'm saying is the truth about how you were made. And part of today is to fully receive that truth without immediately denying it, qualifying it, or asking yourself if you deserve to have it spoken over you. My beloved, I want to talk about the specific link between being clear and taking action, because you are also very rare here. A lot of people are clear in some way. They see things about their life, the people around them, and what is true and false are clear to them. But being clear doesn't bring about change on its own. Being willing to act on what you see, to let the truth you found change the way you move, is what makes change happen. A lot of people get clear when they're alone. They understand what they see. They know what's going on and how much it would cost to do something about it. It would test their relationship, make them feel uncomfortable, and force them to change who they are. Because of this, they hide the clarity somewhere safe and keep going in the cheaper direction. That's not what you do. As soon as you understand, you move on to the next thing. Not always right away. Not without carrying the weight of knowing what the move will need. In the end, though, you always let what you know decide what you do. This is how it's written in Proverbs 4:7. Since wisdom is the most important thing, get it. And with everything you get, understand. Being wise is just the beginning. The second is that you honor it by what you do. You respect it. You take the information I give you and let it guide your actions. Seeking clarity fully and then honoring it in action is what sets you apart from smart people who stay stuck. You're not stuck. Psalm 139:14 says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. When you move, you show that what you know and what you do are two sides of the same coin. My child, that verse isn't just for looks. It is an explanation. The scary part is not about being scared. It has to do with the exact weight of craftsmanship. When you make something out of fear, you pay very close attention to what it needs to be able to handle. I paid a lot of attention to making you. Every little thing about how your mind works and the courage that moves you. The level of intelligence you have wasn't just picked at random. It was planned with purpose, knowing what you would have to carry and what you would have to deal with. You weren't just a rough draft when you came into this world. You were built on purpose, and it will take years for all of your qualities to become clear. They are still becoming clear. There's more to see in the design. Hold on tight. My child, I make the path in the comments. This is something that most people get wrong. So I'm going to talk about what I made your mind to do with knowledge. Most people see their knowledge as something to show off, something that proves they are smart, something they can use to their advantage to build credibility or win an argument. Some people collect things just to have them, be known to have them, or be seen as someone who has them. Such people collect it. The way you relate to knowledge is different. That's not what you do. You break it down. When you understand something true and important, it doesn't just sit on the surface of your mind as decoration. It gets worse. It makes you see things differently. What you do changes. It makes you different. Instead of just adding to the things you already know, you let what you learn change you. Being in this kind of relationship with knowledge is hard, because it means you are always changing into something new. You can't hold on too tightly to a certain version of yourself, because what you are learning is always making that version better. Not many people want to do this. They only want the information, not the change. They want the insight, but don't want to change the things that the insight says should be changed. You don't fight it. You lean into it. People can feel the depth of your being right away when they talk to you, because you let understanding do its full work in you. It doesn't feel like you stole my ideas. They feel like they've lived. They have the weight of someone who not only read about it, but was changed by it. That's what I planned for your mind to do with every truth I let it see, not file it away to be changed by it. So, here is a seed for someone who is just starting to let the truth change them instead of just telling them about it. For the person who is learning that real wisdom costs a part of them every time it comes. Read the text below the link or scan the QR code that's shown on your screen. If you want the full guide with every prayer and lesson I've compiled for this community, check the description for the Daily Miracle Manual. You are about to enter your divine future, but remember, this breakthrough is not for you alone. Your testimony is the bridge someone else will use to reach their own miracle. Archangel Michael is inviting you to visit community through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. By joining our like-minded community, you are no longer praying in isolation. You are adding your voice to a global sanctuary where we discuss the Word daily and stand in the gap for one another. This is not poetry when Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you." On this platform, every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and a hedge of safety for your family. Now is your time. Step into our community prayer wall, share your heart, and as you give, watch God multiply what you let go of. Let's finish this journey together. Visit our community now, join the family, and see your heavens open. This is the time of year when every seed planted leads to awakening. I want to add one more thing to what I already said about how you process knowledge. Because someone goes through a certain change when they consistently let truth change them, instead of just inform them. And it has to do with how well they make things over time. What you create, the ideas you offer, the solutions you come up with, and the insights you share are more valuable than those made by someone who only collected information. This is because knowledge changes you at the level of who you are, not what you know. When someone learns something new, their ideas taste different. They don't sound like borrowed language. Instead, they have the feel of real understanding. When people read or hear something from you, they can tell. They get the feeling that the person who made it didn't just copy what they had seen before. What they went through made them into something. After that, they spoke from that becoming. This is less common than intelligence. It's not as common as clarity. It comes from someone who is ready to pay the price of change every time a big truth comes to light. And there is a real cost, because if what you learn really changes you, you have to let go of the person you were before you learned. It means agreeing that you will not be the same person you were before you knew this. Around the time they become young adults, most people stop agreeing to that. They reach a point where they feel like they are fully formed, and they stop letting the formation continue. You kept giving your okay. One of the things that makes you unique is that you're willing to stay flexible. It's the direct cause of the depth that people feel in everything you make. Now, my child, I need to talk about the people who have been watching. Not the ones who tell everyone they admire you. The people who have seen you grow without being happy about it. One who saw your mind get smarter but didn't say anything. People who saw your bravery pay off and thought it was luck instead. Who watched as you went from being clear to taking action while they stayed still in their own awareness. And chose that the most comfortable story to tell themselves was that what they had was something they were born with, not something they worked on. You put them into yourself, even though no one told you to. The people around you saw you choose growth, even though the easy option was right there, available, and clearly better for everyone. They saw you stick to a level of honesty and integrity that most people quietly gave up after the first season that put it to the test. After that, they watched what happened. Those relationships that got stronger because you were honest, not weaker because you were honest. After the fact, you saw that the choices you made were right, even though they didn't seem sure at the time. The version of yourself that came out of the seasons that were meant to make you look less impressive. So don't say, I saw someone become what they were meant to be. They were just lucky, some of them said, or they said, it's simple for them. Or they didn't say anything and turned your years of careful becoming into a single sentence that didn't mean anything to them. Because they would have had to face what they hadn't done if they admitted what you had done was true. I saw everything, my child. There was no one else around when I saw every quiet choice you made. Every season I saw asked for more from you than seemed fair. I saw all the times you could have given up, but you didn't. Now I'm going to tell you what the record really shows. Not the record that was made by the people who used your story against you. The record I kept. This is the one that shows what you made, how much it cost, and what it produced. And that record can't be changed by someone who felt comfortable reading it wrong for their own sake. As it says in Isaiah 54:17, no weapon that is made against you will work. Any tongue that speaks against you in judgment, you will condemn. That tongue that laughed at your story is not the expert on your story. I am the judge of what you have built. It belongs to the person who planned it. And the verdict is this: you became what I wanted you to become during times that were meant to stop it. You did this by making choices that were completely yours to accept or reject, and you did. That's the record. My child, it's true that they watch me rise in the comments. There is something that happens in rooms and conversations with you that you might not fully understand as something you planned. Your quality clears the fog, not by giving speeches or telling people what they're doing wrong, but by just being there and working from your own clarity. When someone who lives from real understanding goes into a place where illusions are present, the illusions start to feel bad. Not because they are directly facing each other, but because having something true around makes it harder to keep something false around without causing problems. When they are close to you, people who have been lying to themselves, making up stories that keep them from being responsible, or living in the comfortable fog of not really thinking about the choices they have made feel like something changes. They might not understand why the conversation got tougher or why they felt the need to defend themselves to someone who never asked them to, or why the story they tell about themselves felt less complete after a while. This is the result of a mind I made to naturally carry truth, like how wind carries clarity. It comes, and the fog has to go away. Truth and illusion can't live in the same space, at the same level of comfort. It's not because you made it happen. It costs more to pretend when you're around, not because you're a judge, but because of how I built you. We have the mind of Christ, as it says in 1 Corinthians 20:16. When your mind is set on divine truth, it makes sense that what is not true will make you feel bad. You carry that order, and when people are with you, they either lean toward clarity or away from it, depending on what's most important to them at that moment. The answers both agree on one thing. The things you carry are real. It's not the same. It did its job for a long time before you knew about it. Type, I thought about it in the comments, my love. Now I want to talk about the exact reason why people read your courage differently than most courage they read. Because everyone meets people who seem brave all the time. What they are less used to is meeting someone whose bravery isn't a show for an audience. Most of the courage we see in the world is reactive. There was a change. There was a risk and a public moment, and someone stepped up in a way that was seen and recognized. Part of what kept the courage up was the acknowledgement. If no one was there, the question is whether the same bravery would have shown up. The answer is yes for you, because your courage doesn't come from what other people think. It comes from being in line with what I put inside you. No matter if the move is understood, praised, or even noticed. You make it because that's what I designed you to do. It's what you do because you can't do anything else without breaking something deeper inside you than your need to be liked. What gives your courage its strength is that it comes from being rooted in your own plans instead of how other people react. It does not work. It doesn't look for anything. It only moves when moving is what makes the deepest part of you happy. And that movement, which you don't do or plan, is what people feel when they meet you. Someone doesn't need them to make sure that the next step is the right one before they take it. And that is one of the rarest feelings a person can have when they are with another person. In Jeremiah 29:11 the Lord says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." The way you move is not by chance. according to a plan that was already made, it makes sense. No, you're not getting it. You are finding your way into something that was planned from the start. In the comments type, I am fully awake. As a parent, I want to talk to you about what happens when your aligned courage meets the seasons that were meant to test it. I'm not just guessing, the seasons really happened. I'm talking about times in your life when what you thought about yourself was being tested by situations that seemed to be against you. Times when the outside evidence grew stronger against your inner conviction. Times when what you saw led you to one conclusion, and what you knew led you to another, and you had to decide which one to live by. During these times, most people choose the visible evidence and lower their belief about themselves to match what the situations seem to be saying. This is called being realistic. When there is a gap between what they expect and what happens, they tell themselves they are being mature. But what they are really doing is letting temporary events change a permanent plan. That's not what you did. In the short term, you held on to the conviction, not because the circumstances supported it, or because you had evidence that it was right, but because you knew that the plan I gave you could not be changed by a hard time. And that holding, that refusal to change what I put in you, based on what a hard season was telling me, is what made you into the person you are now, someone that people watch and study and can't fully explain, but can't ignore. They are looking at someone who was put to the test by seasons that are meant to make things worse, and came out with something that hardship can't give you. It can only show, and what the trouble brought out in you is exactly what I wanted to be there. Dear child, let me talk about the last quality. You need to know this about yourself before we end, because it's the most important. It's what everything else I've said is based on. It is the state of being fully aware, of living without the autopilot that most people have set up but never looked at. Life for most people is like having a default setting that guides them through the day. The setting was set by their surroundings, their past, their fears, and the assumptions they made without question. There was no reason for them to pick it. They took it in. They lived in it without ever really questioning whether it is what they would have chosen if they knew they had the choice. This is because they absorbed it instead of choosing it. You live in a different way. You are more aware of the choices you make every day than most people ever become. You think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. You don't just live by the assumptions that drive your behavior, you question them. You don't just keep going, you choose. And when you live in a conscious way, people can feel something about you before they can name it. They believe someone has actually chosen who they are when they are with them. Someone who is not just a result of their circumstances, but also takes part in making themselves. That is a rare trait. It shows in the way you talk, the decisions you make, and how much you think about what you're doing and why. And when other people meet you, they often don't even know what they're feeling. They feel like they're next to someone who has used the most powerful freedom there is. The freedom to write their own consciousness. That freedom is where I meant for you to be. You don't live this way by accident. It happens when you agree with a plan that calls for you to be fully present in your own life. Most people don't choose full presence because they're afraid of what it will show them. You picked it. And the choice you made before the prayer made you stand out. Plant a seed for someone who is starting to become aware of the consciousness they were born with, who is looking at the autopilot they've been living on and realizing it doesn't reflect who they really are. Read the text below the link or scan the QR code that's shown on your screen. Before you wake up, plant a seed. That seed will grow into the harvest of a full life. Type, "This is what I get," in the comments, my child. Finally, let me tell you what I need you to carry with you from now on. When your mind goes into a room, it changes the way it's set up, not how it looks. I made it so that your courage would come from being in line with me, not from the cheers of the crowd. I made your intelligence so that what it learns changes you, not just tells you what it knows. Everyone around you is more clear because of your presence, not because you're trying to make that happen, but because truth always has that effect. All of this wasn't a mistake. None of it came because things were going well for you or because you didn't have to go through the hard times that other people do. No one spared you, you were ready. It wasn't easy to get the qualities that make you the person that people study, the person that makes the room shift when they walk in, and the person whose courage makes others think about how still they are. These things happened because of how I designed you and what you did with what I designed. You didn't stop becoming when you could have. You kept learning even though you knew a lot already. You kept moving even though everything around you said that staying put would be smarter. I was there for the whole thing. Every quiet choice made without anyone else being there. For every season that asked for more than seemed fair. Every time you had a choice, make the one that fit what I made you for, not what would have been easiest. That record was kept. It is correct. The job is done. No one can change it if they think it would be easier to cut down what you put into a story that didn't need them to rise. In Romans 8:28, it says that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His plan. You were helped by the seasons that seemed to be against you. You were changing during the years that seemed to slow you down. That's right. Those who watched without celebrating were keeping records secret. Since you got here, everything has been going in the same direction that I set up before you got there. Keep going that way. Continue to become. Pick the alignment over the approval over and over again. The rooms will move around a lot. People will keep feeling things they can't quite put their finger on. The record will keep going up. You already know more than that. Heavenly Father, we come before you now on behalf of all the chosen people who heard this message today and needed to hear that the qualities they possess were not an accident. That the way their mind works, the courage that guides their decisions, and the depth that their learning brings out in them were not put together by chance. The people who made it paid close attention to what they would face and what they would need to deal with it. Today we are told that what we carry is yours before it is ours, and that what people feel when they are with us Is your design moving through someone who has been willing to let it? We let go of the parts of ourselves that wondered if what we carry is real. We let go of the voices that said our becoming was due to luck, circumstance, or talent instead of the careful work of the one who made us. In every room we walk into, we let the truth do its work through us. This means we have full awareness, full courage, full structural effect, and full willingness to let the truth do its work through us. Keep us aware of what we plan to do. Keep us in line with what you planned. Keep making us what the design has always meant us to be. In the name of the one who always makes things look good, who never makes anything by accident. Yes. If this word spoke to you and helped you understand where the things you carry actually come from, please send it to someone you know who is living with a quality they don't yet know is designed and is confused about why they move differently than the people around them. This person has felt the effects of what they carry, but doesn't know what to call it. Get this word to them. It's not like them. They were never that. Loved ones, God bless you. Before we get to the end of this powerful story, let's reflect on this deep truth. You did not find this message by accident. This is a divine appointment meant specifically for you. You are being invited into a protected, faith-filled community at the link in the description and pinned comment, a place where divine abundance is not just a hope, but a promise built on the Word. By heading to the site right now, you are unlocking access to a sacred community of like-minded believers. When you join our membership tiers, you gain immediate entry to powerful content, daily devotions, and divine insights that are hidden from the world. This is your chance to enter a sanctuary where you will receive spiritual guidance, unwavering support on our prayer wall, and speedy progress toward your destiny. Do not let this moment of destiny pass you by. Your breakthrough is waiting. Join our inner circle through the exclusive link in the description. This is how you guarantee you never miss the personalized messages and spiritual warfare tools meant to elevate your life. If you feel called to deepen your connection, the link is waiting for you in both the pinned comment and the description. For those who want to amplify this work and carry the light home, you can find our guided ebooks and Bibles in the pinned comment. Whether you join as a member or sow a seed through our resources, your presence and energy change the world. Take the step, your abundance awaits.